Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Say What I Mean. Make sure you like, subscribe, share the video. Definitely try to make this channel pop off, and I appreciate y'all support. I just want to start off by giving a few thoughts on last night Democratic debate. I'm going to do a bigger podcast and flush out all my thoughts and give it a thorough breakdown, but here's just a few quick thoughts. Number one, CNN is terrible. They did a terrible job in monitoring the debate. I know I say this every debate because it's still true. Every network do the same thing. It's similar to the point that Tulsi Gabbard made about them being more concerned with reality TV. Now, I do think it was a weak move by Tulsi Gabbard to threaten to boycott the debate when everybody knew she wasn't going to boycott. We all knew she was going to show up for it, so it was just like a attention-seeking ploy that didn't work. But the essence of that particular point she made, I agree with, and I think is correct. They are concerned about reality TV. They're not really concerned about policies. And when they do talk about policy, they are so biased and they don't even know it. And we all have biases. We do. They have a bias towards the establishment. They have a bias to more moderate, centrist, even a little bit conservative policies. You can see it in the way they ask some of these questions. And John King, after the debate last night, when the squad, well, the three of the four members of the squad endorsed Bernie Sanders, saying, okay, is it too urban? So you should know, just from that comment alone, where these people coming from in their mindset. That being said, how did the debate go? Well, they didn't ask the questions that I wanted to be asked. Of course, that's no surprise, but how did they respond to the questions that were being asked? So I'm not going to go through every candidate, but let's just start with Elizabeth Warren. Now, Elizabeth Warren took a lot of heat last night, which to be expected. In recent polls, they got her towards the top. A few of these polls, she's ahead of Joe Biden. They seem to be going back and forth. For, I guess, maybe a few days, she passed Joe Biden with the Real Clear Politics polls. I think Biden is back in the lead with that, but it seemed to be going back and forth. So she took a lot of heat, and whether she's in first or second place, she's near the top, and she had a tremendous rise over the last few months. So a lot of the candidates wanted to boost their name, get a little bit of attention by attacking her. I think she did okay. Most of those attacks fell flat, in my opinion. However, I think the attack about her being vague on how she's going to pay for Medicare for all and the taxation point is hitting, starting to stick a little bit. And she kind of, how can I put this? She kind of disappointed me in her answer because this is like the fourth debate. I'm like, come on, Liz. This is the fourth debate. 3 or 4. I think it's the fourth debate anyway. But regardless, third or fourth debate, you didn't have plenty of time to get this answer correct. And they asked her the same question every debate, and her answer been the same every debate. I said it from the first time she said it. It's not a good answer. It is really not. She keeps saying that, okay, costs for the wealthy is going to go up. Prices and costs for the middle class and everybody else is going to go down. Okay, that sounds good, but it is vague. Let's call it what it is. And they kept hitting her and hitting her. And she kept saying the same thing. And, it is vague, to be honest. Now, Bernie Sanders was there, and he said, yes, taxes would go up, but overall costs would go down as well. And even the other candidates to attack Liz was like, well, at least Bernie is admitting taxes for the middle class will go up. And I understand why Liz don't want to say it because it is a talking point. They're going to run attack ads over it. It giving Republicans a talking point. It's going to give conservative Democrats a talking point. So I understand why she don't want to say it. But I think you got to explain how you're going to pay for it. In my opinion, Bernie is really good on healthcare. He by far did the best when it came to the healthcare portion of the debate. But even with Bernie, sometimes I don't like the way he explained Medicare for all either. I think I think they need to explain like this. If I was advising, especially Elizabeth Warren, because her answer need the most work, I would tell Elizabeth this. Okay, I understand you don't want to say you're gonna raise taxes. And don't say this. This is the way you could get around this. I would say that yes, taxes is gonna go up for the wealthy. You keep that part. But for taxes for everybody else, it's actually gonna be cut. It's gonna be less for the majority of people. How can that be? It's going to be less because premiums and deductibles are really private tax. It's not me saying that's a private tax. The Supreme Court agreed that when you mandate everybody to buy health care, it's a tax because you can't get around it. If you don't get health care, you pay a fine. So that's how the Affordable Care Act was held up in the Supreme Court. They view it as a tax. It is a private tax. So that private tax will go away. And for the majority of people, overall costs will be down. Therefore, for most people, it would be a tax cut. That's how I would do it. If I was their advisors, I would tell them to answer like that. Also, we keep pounding home the point that the system costs trillions and trillions of dollars already. They keep saying, well, Medicare for all is going to cost $32 trillion over 10 years. Well, the current system is going to cost trillions upon trillions of dollars anyway. So what they doing is they act like that 32 trillion is on top of all the trillions of dollars that's already in this, that already going to cost the system going forward. So the way they frame it is all fucked up in my opinion. So I think they got to fight a little bit harder and use better talking points when it comes to that, because you're not going to have the media on your side. Most of the other candidates is not going to support it. So they got to get a little bit sharper. Bernie is pretty decent on it. He was pretty good on it. I would just tweak a little bit what he said last night. But Elizabeth Warren got to get a lot better with defending Medicare for all. But other than the healthcare debate, I think Elizabeth Warren had a pretty good night. Klobuchar tried to attack her a few times, and the media, especially CNN, they seem to love Klobuchar. Well, MSNBC do too. Most of the establishment media do. I have no idea. She never says anything that interests me. Her jokes is not funny. She's mad corny. She have no plans that inspire me. Like, I don't see her appeal at all. Is it because she's from the Midwest? I don't care about that. There's a lot of people from the Midwest. That doesn't mean they should be president. So I really don't understand why the media love Klobuchar so much. But then again, I think about it, I do understand. She's moderate. She's their friend. So they want to boost her. They've been trying to boost her ever since she launched her campaign. And it's just not happening. Nobody cared about what she had to say. She seemed like she talked forever. She got a lot of speaking time last night. For somebody that's like at 1-2% in the polls, she got way too much time talking. So Klobuchar tried to attack Liz. I don't think any of those attacks really affected her anyway. Beto tried to attack Liz. His attack was really weak. Probably the weakest attack. Biden was hitting Warren and every other candidate about how he was the only one to really get stuff pushed through and passed. But when Elizabeth Warren countered attack and mentioned the Consumer Financial Bureau, when Biden said that, I actually fought for votes for that, that would have been a decent response if he wasn't yelling and then saying that, oh, you did a good job. You did a good job doing your job, was his word. Bad optics, didn't look good. He should have just kept it like, yeah, I fought to get you votes for that too. And that would have been a perfect response. Biden had an up and down night. That was a bad moment. He had a bad moment when he was trying to explain the Hunter Biden situation. I mean, that's not going away. Joe Biden would be a disaster if he's the nominee. So hopefully that won't happen. Bernie Sanders, ethered him, in my opinion, with when Biden was talking about how you got all this stuff done. Bernie pointing out, yeah, you also got the Iraq War done. You got the bankruptcy bill done. You got a lot of negative things done for this country. Bernie should have mentioned he got the 1994 crime bill done too, but Bernie voted for that bill too, so he couldn't mention that. The 94 crime bill is terrible. I like Bernie, but he can't get a pass on that 94 crime bill, especially since he explained and he kind of knew what the consequences of passing that bill would be. He still voted for it. Understand you support the Violence Against Women Act. That's all well and good, but you knew the mass incarceration was coming with that, so you get no pass on that. It was a terrible vote. He should be held accountable for it. I don't care if black politicians supported it at the time. It was a terrible, terrible, terrible vote. That just like defending people that voted for the Iraq War because of the mood of the country at the time. It was still a terrible vote. And they shouldn't get a pass on that. So that's what I feel about that. With that being said, I think Bernie Sanders had a very good night. Very good night. On top of getting the endorsements from AOC, Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, getting 3 of the 4 members of the squad endorsements, that's really big news for him. Carried the news cycle and should give him a little bit of juice. I think Presley might endorse Warren, being that she's from Massachusetts. So we'll see how that plays out. But just his debate, the performance was outstanding. I think this is by far Bernie's best debate. By far. I mean, the last debate, I think he looked old, disheveled. His voice was messed up. That's why I criticized his campaign last time. Like, you can't have him doing all these rallies right before the debate. That doesn't make no sense. He ended up losing his voice. And last debate, he was good on substance, but his voice was fucked up and nobody paid attention. This debate, he seemed energized. He looked healthy for a 78-year-old man. He looked healthy. He did a really good job last night. And believe it or not, it might sound fucked up, but like the heart attack might have actually helped him. And I say that with all due respect. I'm not saying that to be funny. I'm not saying that to make light of the situation at all. I say that because during the last debate, and actually for the last few months, in my opinion, Bernie didn't seem like himself. He didn't seem as energetic. He looked older. I know he's old, but he looked even older than he usually looked. And he said himself after the procedure that he feels a lot better. He feels refreshed. And just from what the medical people on TV was saying, after the procedure that he had, a lot of people end up feeling better and more energized. And it seems like that happened with Bernie. Also, I think being off the campaign trail for a few weeks helped him too and re-energize. Like when you're on vacation. When you take a little vacation from your regular job, you come back, you're more focused, you're a little bit more energized. I think this is the case with Bernie. So he did an outstanding job calling out Biden. The only thing that is not criticism of him, he just didn't get a lot of time to speak. But that's not his fault. That's not his fault. And I think he kind of saved Elizabeth Warren with the Medicare for All debate because, like I said earlier, I don't like the way she frames the Medicare for All. But he came in and he did a pretty decent job of explaining Medicare for All and fighting for it. So props from him for that. I like Elizabeth Warren for several different reasons. If the votes was cast today, I probably would pick Elizabeth Warren. I know some of y'all's freaking out, but I have my reasons. I'm not going to get into it in this video, but later I'm definitely going to get into the reasons. But I think Bernie can still win this thing. A lot of people didn't count him out. I've been saying this for a while now that don't count out Bernie. I mean, he got a lot of money in the bank. A poll just came out, and he basically tied for first place in Iowa. Iowa's a caucus. He got dedicated supporters. He can definitely pull off Iowa. If he pull out Iowa, that will give him momentum going into New Hampshire. There's polls that have been showing him doing very well in Nevada. So you know, Bernie can still win this thing. So I don't know why the media is counting him out. Maybe because they just don't like him. But he have momentum now, and yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see where he goes from here. It definitely will. Some of the other candidates, I'm not. Some of them is not even worth mentioning, like Tom Steyer, not worth mentioning. Tulsi Gabbard, after that, threatened to boycott the debate, you would have thought she would have been better prepared, had a better debate. And it's unfortunate because it seemed like with Tulsi Gabbard, people either love her or hate her. I'm somewhere in the middle with her. I think her voice is needed for the non-intervention wars. I because she's one of the only candidates that's pushing that. As far as foreign policy and like being against regime change wars is very important. So I want her in the race for that specific reason. However, during this campaign, it seemed like she made a conscious decision to, tack towards the right. And I'm not feeling that. She's been defending Joe Biden. She defended his busing story and like some of his racially insensitive comments. She's been defending that. So I don't know. It's whatever with Tulsi, but she tried to attack Elizabeth Warren twice. Both times it fell flat. The first time, the way she did it was just weird too. When she asked Elizabeth Warren would she support taking the troops out of Syria, and Elizabeth Warren just like, I support troops not being in the Middle East, period. And that fell flat. Then she tried to attack Elizabeth Warren again, but the moderator cut her off because they was going to commercial break. But wherever she was asking, just from like the beginning of the question, it didn't seem like it was going to go anywhere. She was going to ask Elizabeth Warren, did she support something again? And it was just like, what type of attacks is this? I would expect it better of her because the last two times she was in a debate, she did very well. When she debated with Tim Ryan, I thought she destroyed Tim Ryan in that debate they had the very first time. And she did, everybody knows she did to Kamala Harris. She destroyed Kamala Harris. But this time it just landed flat. It didn't do any damage to Liz. Now, Kamala Harris, again, bad job. She had no memorable moments in the debate, like except for the Twitter thing when she was asking again Elizabeth Warren, would she join her? I don't know why they keep asking Elizabeth Warren, would you do if you got to attack? Just attack. Why you asking her? Okay, would you join me with banning Trump for Twitter? Nobody cares about that. That's not an issue anybody is asking about. I mean, it's just tone deaf. Tone deaf. And the only other person I want to mention, like I said, I'm going to do a bigger podcast breaking down the state of the campaign, breaking down this debate a little bit further. Is Castro. I think Castro had the best answer tonight when Kamala Harris was talking about the mandatory gun buyback, and Kamala Harris was saying how it's affected black communities, and Castro mentioned that he would be concerned with a mandatory gun buyback because it's basically giving police and law enforcement another tool to target certain communities. And he mentioned Miss Jefferson, who got murdered in Dallas-Fort Worth, by a police officer. And he mentioned about how, police violence is violence. It's gun violence as well. And I'm happy he said that. Salute to him for that. He had a few good debates. Actually, I think Castro did good at every single one of his debates. I think he would be a good vice presidential candidate, depending on who get the nomination. But Castro did a great job, and that's one of the things that I wish CNN would have talked about is police reform. Elizabeth Warren tweeted out about how we need a national use of force module, and that's something that I've been talking about for a little bit too, and I'm glad Elizabeth mentioned that. So, yeah, shout out to Elizabeth Warren, shout out to Castro, and that's something that need to be debated further, and I wish we actually had a media platform that host debates that would ask those type of questions of these candidates, because I would want to know where each one of the candidates stand on an issue like that. And before I get out of here, Buttigieg, he's my least favorite candidate for several different reasons, but I'm not even going to get into that because this video is long enough. Like I said, I'm going to do a podcast with a longer breakdown of this debate, and also discussing police reform and what exactly that would look like on a local, state, and federal level, what each branch of government can do, or each level of government can do regarding police reform, because it's something that we drastically need. Thank y'all for tuning in. Again, subscribe, like, share. Definitely try and make this channel pop off, because I feel like this is a lane that needed on the left. There's a lot of people on the left that have certain points of view, but I think people I talk to, my point of view is definitely progressive, but I think bring a different viewpoint of working to improve the lives of black people, because that's who I've been around most of my life, was in the military as well. So I think I bring a little bit of unique blended perspective to a lot of different topics. So I think this lane is definitely needed in the progressive left right now in politics. So thank y'all for your support. Peace.